Hey guys.
Hey guys, we're back with Model Talk.
It's Devin Blackerby.
And Nicole Nance. And we're here to talk about modeling stuff and give advice and try to make the industry a little bit more transparent. So thank you guys for listening. This is our 5th episode.
Yes.
So, yay.
So there's been a lot of recent modeling fashion news. So we're basically just going to touch on that in this whole episode. Some of it will go into deeper. So I'll just say this at the top. So I know that a couple people who listen to us and some people know about the Robert Koester case that's happening in Oregon and California right now. It's still an active investigation and we want to do a whole episode on it. I personally just need to check with the correct parties who are involved and make sure that's okay and talk about things that I know are okay to speak publicly because it's still an active investigation. So that'll be coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we will touch on him today, but basically only things that have been published to the public. We're going to be touching on all that stuff.
Yeah.
So just a warning, it might be a slightly intense episode, but
it's important.
Oh, there was Nicole's cat.
The guest star of my cat Nacho. But it's a pop culture episode, and so this is going to be airing on August 22nd, 2019.
So it's based on stuff that's going on right now.
It's important overall. Like it's a
it's a very monumental moment. I feel like it's a good thing, but it's not some great people involved. Yeah. So okay, so we'll start.
Let's jump in.
We're gonna start with Markus Hyde, which this happened. This article is July 23rd.
So this is very recently.
Very recently, but I have an article pulled up. But basically, he was a photographer. Apparently, he was Kim Kardashian's photographer, as everyone is calling him. But he was working...
he was a celebrity photographer.
Yes, but he was also like a young LA-based photographer, I would say. And he was working with girls, and I guess he started asking them for inappropriate photos over social media, especially like nude photos. And this was more like if you asked to do trade work as a model. Because as a model, sometimes you'll reach out to a photographer who, in a perfect world, you would be able to pay for a shoot. But sometimes you can't. So sometimes you'll ask them if we can do trade, where it's like you both get images and you both get something out of the deal.
Portfolio builders.
But no one's actually getting paid. So it's more an exchange of like goods and services. So there's a couple social media things, and we'll link this below, and we'll also put it on our Instagram when this comes out. But there were a couple things where some girls were asking him to shoot, but if they could do it for free, and he was saying, I only shoot nude for free, and you have to play within my rules, otherwise it's like $2,000 to shoot with me, which, not gonna lie, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
The only other photographer I can compare that to is actually someone who just got nominated for PSFA, Coley Wright, who works in like Portland and LA. He's great. He has a very interesting shooting style. I don't know how to describe it, but like he's amazing. But for him, if I can recall correctly, he charges based on the number of looks you want to do. Okay. So like I think 2 looks with him was around $1,500 the last time I shot with him. I'm not sure if that's correct now. This was a while ago. So to me that makes sense that it's like, okay, 1 look is $500. Yeah. 2 looks is $1,000 or something like that. So he did it based on looks because he had a whole makeup team and a styling team with him.
$2,000 is a lot of money, but overall, like that, coming from somebody who worked in the wedding industry and learning about wedding photography and why it's so expensive, and then transitioning into more of like a looking at fashion photographers and why they charge what they charge, you get what you pay for.
Well, especially like if I'm going off my example of Coley, like he had a team with him, so it's like you're paying him and his team also. Right. And usually it was in LA, which is, kind of a hard market. So it'd be good to shoot with someone who's used to working in that area.
So, but somebody you're text messaging with about a potential trade shoot that wants to charge you $2,000 is kind of ridiculous.
It's a lot. Also, his other allegations were that he would ask girls to send nude photos over like DMs, like social media,
like from their phone,
so not okay
before shooting,
because that's how he would quote unquote see what they have.
So maybe some photographers, they text, they get jobs that way, whatever. This is taking it to a point where I read one of the whole text exchanges, and it was basically they agreed on doing a shoot, and then he said send nudes. And she was like, but we're not doing nude. I'll do lingerie. I'll do partial nude. And he was like, that's $2,000. And then he said, and so she asked, she said, so nude is free? And he was like, if you send me nude photos beforehand. So that's just soliciting for nude photos. Like,
it's harassment.
Yeah, 100%. And it's using your celebrity to intimidate people into doing what you want them to do. And I hadn't heard of him prior to this, but that doesn't mean that if somebody approaches you and they say, I'm so-and-so, and you Google them and they are a celebrity photographer, then,
she was linked to working with Kim Kardashian, West, and
Ariana Grande.
And then I think he came out as working with some of the VS models too, and this other thing that we're going to touch on in a little. So he had a portfolio, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But as someone who unfortunately has had experience with people like this is very interesting to me. Over social media, send me a nude photo.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's really ballsy. And they, at that point, I think have had probably a pattern of building up power enough to where someone's going to say yes,
caught. Yeah.
but they're not going to get caught. So it's almost cocky in a way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's usually, from my experience, it's usually relatively in the shadows and secretive, and you only know when it's like happening to you physically
sometimes
in person,
like after the fact,
or
too.
After the fact, you don't even recognize that maybe like that's actually what was going on. You're like, oh no, like that actually happened. Or sometimes you get maybe a weird text, but it's not overtly like sexual in a way. It's just like it could come off really odd.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me how like bold these people were.
Yeah, because usually like sexual predators are they'll like poke and poke and poke, and then if they don't get what they want, they don't want to get caught, and so they just walk away and they find another. Yeah, it's almost like they get confident and comfortable. It's like a serial killer. They start off small and then they grow and grow. And so the beautiful thing now, in my opinion, with the women's movement that's happening in this era is women are typically, so let's say you get a weird text message and you're like in your gut, you know it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
But typically women don't want to accuse somebody of wrongly doing something, even though they know it's happening. Just do it. Like, I say speak up.
Well, I think it's because as a woman, you're taught to be polite. And that's like my favorite murder says, they say like, fuck politeness. It's like, just don't even put yourself in that scenario. I know in your gut, you're going to be like, well, I'm being mean. It's like, well, they're being an asshole. So it's okay for you to be rude to them back. Look what they're doing to you. Moving on to someone who, if you look up an article on this, his name also comes up. It's Timur Irmik. I think I'm saying that right. It's Timur and then Emek. But he was also accused of like misconduct with a bunch of women. He had a bunch of DMs linked where I guess he was shooting with a girl and he got really close to her at one point and like pulled her shirt down and took a picture of her topless, essentially, like without her permission. And so I saw a bunch of those like on people's stories, and then like so he was actually like physically touching people, which is not okay. And doing stuff like that. And then he had a couple linked DMs about, I think, asking for nudity also, but he was linked because he was specifically called out as a Victoria's Secret photographer, like that he actually worked with some of those women. And he's New York based, so he was in that market with them. On
that subject of like photographers touching models, I actually just yesterday on Facebook, there's a ton of model groups out there on Facebook where you can meet people who want to do trade for photo and stuff, and they're great groups. I know a lot of people who have made good connections, but over time I've come across questions, and they are traditionally from photographers. It's not solely photographers, but one I came across was asking about like if a photographer is working with a model and oil is involved. So an athletic shoot, a lot of times they'll use oil, but mostly nudes, mostly more sexy style things. And the question was something along the lines of, so as a photographer, am I not allowed to put oil on my model anymore? And things like that, like...
That just sounds so mean.
Yeah, that whole mindset of what? So I can't touch anybody without asking ever? It's like, well, no, you can't. And I hate that I see not a lot and not any that I personally know, but I see it through social media where they're just kind of like, well then, like, well, what can I even do? Like, it just... they think it's stifling them to be more respectful to models. That's how I should have said it.
It's okay. You got there.
I got there eventually. But yeah, I find that really annoying. It's like, yes, you do have to ask.
Also, I've never been on set where a photographer is actually doing that. Usually if it's a professional set, the makeup artist will be doing it and they will ask.
And
the
the
few times
designer.
I've seen they'll ask like, hey, are you okay with me doing it? Or I've mostly seen it on men, to be honest. They'll ask, they're like, are you okay with me oiling you? Or do you want to go in the bathroom and like do it yourself? Because it is a comfort level. It's essentially asking, can I touch your boob?
Yeah.
Or can I like adjust a bra for you? It's like the same level of like intimacy with it and touching someone else's body maybe when they don't want you to. Because there's a difference between, let's say I shifted in a pose and my shirt just did some weird thing and I can't see it but the photographer can. So if he comes up and like just tugs on it a little and moves it, but he's not like touching my body or touching like a strap where my bra is, but he just shifts it a little, to me that's almost normal. And a lot of photographers will give you a heads up before you shoot with them, especially they'll be like, I touch things, if you're okay with it I'm going to come up and like fix things if I see things are weird. And most of the time that's just like they're fixing it for the photo. It's nothing to do with you. They just want the image to look okay. Or they'll ask you, like they'll be like, did you see your hair just move like that? Can you adjust it when you're shooting? So that's fine.
The point is they're letting you know and they're respecting your right to say no.
And that's completely different than oiling up a body.
Yeah.
Like if you are adjusting a shirt because it laid weird really quickly and you're just
totally
like taking
different.
2 fingers and moving it. It's
Yeah.
like, whatever. That's not a big deal to me at this point. I know some women don't like it, so obviously they'll try to adjust things on their own. It's all to your comfort level. But that's different between like if I had to put like lotion on, I'd rather lotion myself. Or if there was if I was comfortable enough in there, I'd probably say a female makeup artist just for that reason. But that's my comfort level. If like Angela was there, Foster, and she had to like put lotion on my legs, I'd be like, cool, I'm fine with you helping me put it on. Or like we with our the live we did when Megan was testing out that body glitter, like she basically helped put body glitter all over my body, but I was like completely comfortable with it because I know her. So it's like it's not a big deal to me when it's that, but like
you have to
you're just crossing a line. And also, do you not understand how like creepy you sound when you're saying that? Like you sound like you don't care.
Just because somebody is consenting to do nude photography or whatever,
or be a nude model,
they're not consenting to being touched. They're consenting to creating the art that it requires to be nude.
Especially, I didn't touch on this when we were talking about this kind of topic last time, but with lingerie shooting, here's what I'm going to say. I know you don't do lingerie shooting. I do lingerie shooting because personally for me, I think it's very like empowering and very confident, and also sometimes you get to keep this stuff, so it's cool.
Yeah, that's
But cool. It's a super intimate space, and I've actually only shot lingerie with mostly male photographers. I've shot it with one female photographer. But and even in my mind, the last time I was shooting it, I was sitting there and I was with a photographer that I like no issues with, and he's great. But I was sitting there and I was like, I could easily see how this could turn so bad. Because I'm like by myself, I'm shooting with a male photographer, I'm alone in a studio. Granted, I had a bathroom that I was changing in, so like there wasn't anything weird. But like, it's like you can easily see how like I'm already in something kind of sexy, although it doesn't matter what I'm wearing, but I'm in a vulnerable position. And it could easily just turn into this weird power shift that I maybe wouldn't even notice initially because it's like, oh, I'm just shooting with somebody. But you're in stuff that you're not covered enough or whatever, and then you can easily feel really vulnerable because you're almost slightly at the mercy of the person taking photos.
Yeah, well, you are vulnerable.
And it can be a really empowering thing, and for me it is, and that's kind of why I like to do it. But it also can easily turn so bad so quickly, and I could even see that as someone who has maybe had a couple instances where that's happened, but as of recently, nothing. You know, it's pretty normal.
Hopefully that means things are shifting. Yeah. I mean, I would always say bring someone with you, and that's a good way to test the waters with the new photographer. If you ask if you can bring someone and they say no, to me that's a red flag. Like, I understand them not wanting someone to get in the way, and if they say, look, you can have like an escort or whatever, but they need to respect my space and what I'm doing, and as long as they can just kind of stay in the background, yes. And personally, I expect a yes, and if I were to get a no,
to me, the only reason I don't bring people if it's a professional shoot I'm getting paid for.
Oh no, that's a different story.
Hell no, especially totally not a significant other. Like, not to be rude, but like it comes off very unprofessional on you.
Yeah, and we have our agents that have our back.
Yes, but if you're going to a shoot where you're doing trade, I don't bring anybody because I personally just don't want to be distracted. But there have been a few moments where, like, I was shooting with someone new and I was unsure about said person. So, like, I could have gone into the studio early because I was there early, but I waited until the hair and makeup person got there so we could walk in together. Just because I had never shot with that person before and I wasn't getting the best vibes, but I was in a position where I was already there and I had promised that hair artist that I would work with her. And so I said, okay, I'm fine working with you and you're there with me the whole time. So I know that nothing's going to happen, but I would rather wait to walk into the studio with you because he was already there than go and by myself. I
think that makes perfect sense.
It's also just, I think as women too, it's just a safety thing we have is just like to be in groups sometimes. So sometimes you just like, you like to be with a unit. And maybe even if you're not worried, it's sometimes just nice to have someone else there because sometimes shooting can be long and it's kind of nice to have like a break with someone you know.
Yeah.
Besides the team you're working with, obviously.
Yeah, I guess it depends. That would be like a shoot to shoot scenario, but yeah. I mean,
but yeah, obviously for me, if you're creeped out and especially if you're a minor or even like 18, it's like, hey, can my mom come? And here's my thing. If they say no to a parent, that's a huge red flag. Yeah. If they say no to a significant other or something, sure, I could see where they're coming from. But like a parent specifically, even if you're over the age of being a minor, they should never say no to a parent because that is a huge red flag. Like, what are you going to do? Yeah. If my parent's not showing up. Like, right. Because that's not okay. Yeah. Like, I brought parents with me to shoots probably until I was 18.
I think you should.
Even before then, I still went to some alone. But, like, I had a couple where they came out with me also because I think I was shooting with someone really prevalent. So they wanted just to see what it was all about, too. So they honestly, I think, came to do, like, a little safety check. But, like...
Which, if you're new and you don't actually know what the red flags are or, like, what to expect, just bring somebody. Because I feel like you and I, like, I know what to expect on a shoot, so I know what is not right. Like, I know it's not okay for them to come up and adjust my shirt inappropriately without telling me. But if you're new and you don't know that, like, you just don't want to be in the position where you're figuring that out without somebody there. In my opinion, you know. Be safe, but especially because clearly this is happening with prominent photographers. And so this isn't exclusive to Joe Schmo who bought a camera off Craigslist and put a sheet up on his wall in the basement.
I would say we're not saying this to scare people, but I think it mostly happens with prevalent photographers who are like in the field because they're well known and they have a reputation to back them up almost. So like if you do have per se doubts, it's like, well, then why is he working with everybody or is she working with everybody? Why is this person working with everybody if I'm potentially having some weird vibes?
That bubble is being burst. I feel like it started with Harvey Weinstein in the movie industry, which trickled over into fashion because he was married to
was he married to a model?
No, Marquesa. Crap, what is her name?
Georgina,
yeah. Georgina Chapman.
He was married to her?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't think I knew that.
I haven't followed up to see. I know. I haven't followed up to see where they were at in their divorce process, but from what I remember reading, she is done.
Well, because she's a badass.
Oh my God.
I could not see her standing with that.
No, I could not either.
She's such a strong-willed woman.
Yeah, she's the epitome of like, she's like a cool girl.
She is.
Like
she's
you're
so
just like,
feminine,
so cool.
But she owns it.
Yeah.
And she's so girly, but she's also, you could tell she has like
business,
an edge to her, and she's ready to strike.
Anyways, so yeah, it happens, and that bubble is starting to get bursted. Bursted.
With that, I think that leads into this other person. So Robert Koester, so it's across 2 states now. It's a case in Oregon and in California. He has been charged federally in both states. Those were both just published, and he has state charges in both states. Initially, how this started, how the news first broke, there's an article, I can't find it now. I just have like the Oregon Live article up, but I remember reading, so this is out there. There's an article by a San Diego paper about how he was accused of assaulting a girl on set, and it was through an agency too, which is even worse, that it was like an agency sponsored shoot, and so like they probably had no idea. And so she went home and reported it to her family, and that's how this whole investigation got started, and they found out that he has victims everywhere. He worked up here for a while, and so right now I think they're waiting stuff that's going on, but essentially he's been charged with I mean, everything in the book from like, unfortunately, assault and sexual assault to like drug charges. I know that I think when I'm reading, the Oregon charges are mostly like child pornography because he was accused of taking a lot of nude photos of women who were underage or kind of forcing nudity on them or toplessness or something like that. So I know that there's still, it's an active investigation, right? So like we don't know everything that's happening. This has just been what's been reported, but he went under several different aliases. I mean, around here I knew him as Bert K.
That's the name that rings a bell for me.
Yes, he was prominent here for a while. Yeah. I know he's currently being held. And
I did read that.
And as far as I know for charges, I know he pled not guilty to all of the San Diego state charges, so Carlsbad County. All of those he pled not guilty to. The other stuff we don't know yet. So on top of that, there's federal charges in San Diego, and then February of this year is when Oregon finally put out state charges. So Yamhill County, which was where his residence was, which was in Carlton, Oregon. If you know where that is, it's like a super small town. And then recently, as of like last month, Oregon just federally charged him. Okay. So it'll be, honestly for us here, I think it'll be huge if it ends up going to trial. Like we have no idea what's going to go with that yet, but I think it'll be relatively large and kind of like a big thing here because going off of that, I don't know if you ever knew this. I think I maybe sent it to you, but there was a person here, I won't call them out, who made a list of predatory photographers in Oregon.
I don't know who it was, or I remember when it generated because of the social media buzz around it.
Yes. I don't think they've done it since. I do know who it was though, but
yeah, I wasn't sure if we should bring this up or not because
I'm going to. So, I personally, and Robert Koester was one of the names on the list, so that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. This was all people who were personal stories. I do not know for sure if any of this went into like actual charges or police reports or anything. I think it was all just models in the Northwest sharing stories about things that have happened to them. So I don't want to discount anyone's opinion because I don't know. I only recognize 3 of the names on the list, which I won't say besides Robert Koester. Obviously, he was on there and he's now being charged.
He's really the only one we can like genuinely...
Yeah. There were 2 others that I knew though. And one I had worked with and one I have since worked with or kind of worked with. I don't know how to describe it. There's no like photos I've done with him though. It's weird because you look at it and it's basically people's accounts. So what it would be like is it would be like an example, it'd be like Bill Smith, and then it'd be like number of accuses, and there'd be a number next to their name, and then there would be like a little summary next to their name of being like accused of inappropriately touching women. Yeah. And so this came out and it was this giant Excel sheet, and I remember for a while when it came out, everyone was abuzz and like it was almost a slight joke with some photographers too, being like, oh shoot, I don't want to end up on the list, which I understand. I think that was their way of like processing laughing it out,
yeah,
but
also
still
like
was really scary.
Yeah.
But going off of what we just talked about, I remember looking up several of the people on that list because honestly,
I did too.
Honestly, didn't recognize a lot of the names. Like I said, I only recognize 3.
And I don't believe in propagating rumors, and so I think you should investigate when you hear stuff like that.
I mean,
so I did the same thing.
Obviously, be cautious if you're going to end up working with that person. Be aware. But yeah, so I ended up looking up a couple of the people that had like a bunch of accusals next to their name. And a lot of them I looked up seemed to be people who were in the field of nude photography, fetish photography, or like lingerie, BDSM, like that world. At least that's what I saw. And to me, that's even more unfortunate because like we just said, it's already a really vulnerable position, and nude modeling is this beautiful art, and there's women who travel around the country as like famous nude models. So it's terrible that one, like, they're already putting their body essentially on the line in a way, and then you have someone that takes that huge amount of trust and like abuses it. And so that was really unfortunate. But I also think that's maybe why I didn't recognize a lot of them, because I'm really not in that world. Yeah. So I don't really know it that well.
I didn't recognize a lot of them. And I've talked about this before, but I've been in this industry here for about 4 years now, and I would say like more prevalent within the last 2, and I can verify one of the people on the list.
I can also verify one of the people.
Yeah.
2 of the people, because obviously Bert's on there. So
well, yeah. I mean, I guess I can verify him now, knowing
now
through
that we
you.
know. Yeah.
But and then there's a few of them that I have heard corroborating type stories, but cannot like validate them 100%.
Yeah.
But I trust the people who told me, and I mean, actually, when did this list come out? 3 years ago?
3 or 4. Probably.
Yeah, and I'm still, I feel like, really new, and
I think it was right as I was going into college.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably 2.
I don't want to like downplay the idea of the list, because I know it was fueled by frustration and just this sheer like, this is getting ridiculous. The person who made it
was so brave, and I think it was great that they did that. And I think it's amazing that they took all these stories and compiled them together, and I understand why it was probably insanely frustrating for them. But also, to me, erring on the cautious side here, I don't want this to come off terrible, but to me, erring on the cautious side is like, it's a little scary, because it's like, what if someone actually tried to bring legal action and there wasn't necessarily any reports? It's like, well, you just have like hearsay because someone's just saying they felt this way, which is unfortunately what happens in a lot of cases about assault or sexual assault or nudity or stuff like that, which is terrible to say, but that's almost the reality of like the legal system. Is like, if you're gonna say it, you better be ready to almost like
fight for it
and prove it time and time again, even though you know it happened, or like if it happened to you, or like if you know someone it happened to, like they know it happened, but then it's like getting in front of a jury and convincing them is not always going to happen.
Right.
So I remember thinking when that list first came out, is any legal action going to come out of this? And I remember hearing rumors about a couple people trying to like bring what is it, like when you disgrace someone's name, like it's like that kind of charge onto the person that had made the list, but I don't think anything actually came of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. On that note of like being cautious with who you like accuse or whatever, I mean, I believe in speaking up for yourself, even if you are slightly unsure about it. But what I learned from when this list came out is that you being loud about things, if that is your platform, that is fine. I mean, you get your story out. However, what it showed me was the importance of how to deliver such big accusations or try to get such a big point across, because I think what happened was it got put out there on social media and people read these accusations and forgot that they were accusations and took them as truth. Now, with that being said, I looked up some of these, and I mean, a lot of them on there are true from what I could find. But, and so I think the way that it got thrown around, and it was like sensational there for a minute. It was
sensational here. If you're not in the Portland fashion industry, you don't know. But to us,
I would imagine this has happened elsewhere as well.
I'm sure it has, but to us, it was a version of like, I don't want to equate it to Watergate, but something like that, where there was like a huge information leak that people, I think, had like individually known about, 1 or 2 people, just because you do know. But then it's like, oh shoot, there's like 50 people? I had no idea. And so it was just this huge leak of like, oh my God, what's happening in our world?
Yeah.
And I think that was a lot of people's reaction, was like, how is this happening?
It hits so close to home.
Yes.
And it's scary. And I think that what happened from it, I don't know if anything happened with any of the photographers on it other than Bert. But what it did for the models was we sure as hell are a lot more vocal about being safe. And I would say it is being taken a lot more seriously. And I personally don't appreciate the jokes of like, well, oh no, am I going to be on the blacklist? Because I'm like, you're joking it to somebody who's directly affected by that. But at the same time, whatever. But yeah, it made a huge shift in this little market out here, at least to me. I mean, I've seen a big shift ever since it came out. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely was a big thing that happened here in, I guess, pop culture. So it happens on tiny scales and on, like, celebrity level scales.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing.
It is.
And then as of this says August 8th on this, but there was a huge break, and I know this was actually on like the news, so I think a lot of people know, but the model urges against abuse to Victoria's Secret, and Model Alliance writing an open letter to them about sexual misconduct allegations and like doing a safety code of conduct. So Model Alliance really wants them to sign a legal agreement with them to hold up a code of conduct about model safety and security. So we can just talk about that.
Not even just safety and security, but fair working conditions, and such as like pay.
Yeah, that's in there too.
Yeah.
You can go on Model Alliance if you're a model, or even if you're not, and sign the petition that they have going right now.
We'll tag them.
We'll put it in. We can link it at the bottom.
We talk about Model Alliance a lot. I would suggest that if you're a model, new or existing,
follow them
check
on
it out.
Instagram, because they are very vocal. Actually, they were the first ones that I knew of that put out this Robert Koester case on their Instagram. That's honestly how I found out about it when it broke. So they're really good about being on top of that. And also, I do know this just from following them. If you have any like allegations, you can report them to them anonymously, so they keep track of all that for
Interesting.
people. And I think also if they're serious, unfortunately, I think they can. They will not provide you legal counsel. I remember they clarified that on their Instagram, because someone was promoting them as like a lawyer group, which they are not. But you can go through them, and I think they'll help you find those avenues. They're more of an advocacy group, labor rights group, so they'll help you find those avenues, but they cannot like represent you in those kind of cases. But they're really great about that, and they're really on top of like I think one of the tags I have from the photographers we talked about was from Model Alliance. Like, they are really on top of news about safety. They'll publish it on their Instagram. I know it'll go up on their website too. Yeah. So they're very good about it.
Really quick before we jump into the Victoria's Secret thing, I forgot relating to the Markus Hyde thing.
Yeah, go back.
So yes, Kim Kardashian was heavily in the news about it, and part of it was because she stood up for women that have been victims of his. And so this was shared by Cobalt Studios, who's a Portland, amazing local Portland studio. So that's how I came across it, but it's her quote in response to the story. And I'm paraphrasing it a little bit and starting towards the end, but it says, from Kim Kardashian, "I stand in full support of every woman's right to not be harassed, asked, or persuaded to do anything they are not comfortable with. We cannot allow this type of behavior to go unnoticed, and I applaud those who speak out." And as simple as it is, like, I have a little bit of goosebumps, because to hear somebody like Kim Kardashian say that, who has, I have no idea how many followers, like, that changes things. And so it was really
also, she was a really prominent name that worked with him.
Yeah.
So to be able
to validate. Yeah.
To stand up against that is great. Because I think in most cases, unless it's something super serious like this, they usually back their people. So it's nice that she stood up.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that, because, it's... Anyways, back to the Victoria's Secret stuff.
I think this is huge. I
think so too.
I mean, you occasionally hear about the stories about the weird photographer, but this is huge. The fact that we're calling out a whole company. A company that also, we watched in a GMA thing on it just to be up to date, but a company that's been critiqued a lot, especially with their body image, about only really using skinny girls. I remember hearing a story, I think on the news, that they casted for plus, but then they would never use them. So I was like, why are you even doing that? Just straight up say
publicity
that we only want to use skinny women. Because I've quoted this a couple times already, but like Karl Lagerfeld iconically said, "I only want skinny women because skinny sells and skinny is fashion." And it's like, is that rude? Absolutely. But he was straight up about it, at least, and he wasn't wasting anyone's time.
And it's the consumer that creates that.
And it's the consumer.
It's cyclical. And yeah, it definitely should start with something like Victoria's Secret to change it, because they have that impact. But
so it's like, if you're just gonna do skinny, that's totally fine. But from my point of view, it's like, just be upfront about it then.
I remember when Abercrombie and Fitch came out, and
I think his lawsuit.
I think the way that so I'm always pretty twisted on this subject, because I own my own business. I have a business side to my brain, and I understand feeding demand, and you have to make money, and you have to stay in business, and use the images and the media that people are going to be attracted to. But at the same time, you have, in my opinion, somewhat of a responsibility to step up and help change society for the better. Now, everybody has a different version of what for the better means. And Abercrombie, I feel like this was a while ago.
This was a while ago.
When I was in high school, I was turned down from Abercrombie to get a job because of my height. And I later found out that Abercrombie was denying women jobs because of their height, because it's intimidating to men. And therefore, men won't shop there if they're intimidated by the women that work there.
I had never heard this part.
I can't verify that is like company wide. That could have been that particular manager.
I think that was under their old CEO.
Very possibly.
Because their old CEO, this is what I was thinking of. I again had to study this in one of my consumer merch classes because it was a huge lawsuit.
Yeah.
That their old CEO came out and said, we only want cool kids wearing our clothes. We only want like skinny people wearing our clothes.
I'm pretty sure race was involved as well.
Race was involved. Like basically they were essentially being like, we only want like white models wearing our clothes, and like you have to be super fit. And that was their whole thing for a while. And there was a huge lawsuit about workers' discrimination, I think, with how they were hiring people, because they would hire people to do like live modeling, but then like they would also be working there. It was something weird along those lines.
A lot of accusation of sexual assault on sets too.
Oh, I didn't know about
model
that.
on model, and because of the situations they were put in. And
I mean, that makes sense. Those were the most over-sexualized photo
and
shoots.
they're all like 16, 17 years old. So over-sexualized. And I really felt like they had kind of this interesting twist at the time that they were popular, because they went for androgyny. Like the female models, they didn't have a ton of makeup on at all. Nothing really fake about them from what the consumer would see. But man, like the way they went about creating the image they created it irks me. It
was with their old CEO, and then I think he was forced to step down or something, and now they're under new management and whatever. But I remember that, and that's a huge case you'll study if you do anything in the merch fashion world. Or, like, you'll study those huge iconic law cases, because they changed everything. Yeah. Like, that was a bit...
It probably made everybody that aspires to be like an Abercrombie & Fitch person who has bought into their lifestyle and spends way too much on their clothes, now they feel like shit. And, like, the way you delivered that, like, not okay, in my opinion. It did a lot of damage.
To me, I figured out what I was going to say. To me, this case is... I would hope on the same level, where you're calling out a big company that has had issues with consumers already.
Yes.
People have called it out of touch because lingerie now should be for all sizes. Like, Brianna's brand, Savage X Fenty, is great. There's this article also mentioned like the Aerie brand, where they don't do retouched imaging, and they show like models from every size range. I'm trying to think of another one. Adore Me, I think, is also a subscription lingerie brand, but they have a plus and like regular, so, or like
straight size. Is that what it's referred to when you're under a size 16?
I don't know.
I don't know what it's referred to either.
They have a full size set.
Yeah.
They have for every body type. So it's like, there's companies like that which are meeting the same demand as VS, and to me doing it better, because personally I've bought stuff from Savage X Fenty and it's great quality. I like supporting Rihanna because she shows like all different body types, and she makes things for every different woman. There's clearly like a woman who wants to be more covered up, and there's a woman who wants to be super sexy in all of the things she makes, which is great, and they're like really good quality.
Yeah.
So
I think the thing with Rihanna too is
she's killing
the skin tone issue. Like, I know her makeup line was so praised because she has the widest range of foundation colors, and I believe
the first one to drop that wide of a range of foundation ever on the makeup market.
And I believe, and I hope I'm not wrong, and if it's not Rihanna's line, there are multiple lines doing this, but the idea of nude underwear not also including other skin tones other than white, which I never thought of because I'm white. So for me,
nude.
Yeah. And so now they're starting to come out with like quote unquote nude, where it is a wide variety.
I've heard some people just say skin tone color. Like
really?
Skin toned underwear.
I guess I've never heard that.
Underwear. Like, it's like...
You've probably heard that more in the modeling world, having been in it longer.
Maybe.
Because when you're going to Target, you're like, I need nude underwear, or you're in Victoria's Secret and you're asking for help. Maybe that's just because I'm white that I just haven't ever.
I've heard it
probably.
with a couple. What am I thinking of? I think with I think a couple of brands I've heard, especially with women of color, they're like, well, we don't have a nude, we have like a brown or a black tone. Mm-hmm. So they're like, we're trying to find our version of nude underwear. Right. So it's more being inclusive.
Yeah.
Where VS does not do that. I don't even know if they go to plus. If they do, I think it's only in the bra. I don't think it's in the panty.
Like, I think it's like up to a size 16. I don't know that for sure.
But also, every time you go in there, I never see a plus woman working. So it probably doesn't feel like there's a lot of representation.
I have.
Oh, I haven't.
Okay.
I personally have not.
I used to work across from a Victoria's Secret.
I'm glad there is, because like for a while I never saw that. 2, I'm glad now that they've also separated the Pink brand from Victoria's Secret, because for a while they were too close, and it's like Pink is more like loungewear, girly. Yes, I have cute underwear and bras, but it's young. Yeah. It's meant for young girls. So the fact that it was always attached to the VS store, I was like, it's a little too much. Yeah. Like, you're talking about girls who maybe want to wear like cute sweatpants or like cute yoga pants that are pink, and then you have like hardcore lingerie like next to it, which to me is just like, it's almost too close.
I completely agree.
You should have a separation. Also, as someone who has shopped for lingerie before, it's awkward to walk in there and there's a bunch of young girls, not necessarily like the teen, maybe like 12 to 13s, but it's like, and I'm buying stuff for me, and it's like, wow, it's almost this weird it's a weird feeling of like shame, even though I'm not ashamed, but it's like, this feels weird.
Yeah, like this maybe you're
awkward. Like,
I could see it as like maybe the feeling of setting a quote unquote bad example.
Yeah, I'm like,
but I also
feel
think
like
that's
a little bit of a hoe.
I feel like that's a very American thought too,
for sure
because
is.
I'm curious, like if we were over in Europe, would having Pink Victoria's Secret and Victoria's Secret lingerie kind of within the same store, would that be as weird, because they just view sexuality so differently?
They're much more healthier about it. I think it probably wouldn't be as big of a deal, but I think it's still nice. Also, I think it's nice because as someone who, like, I love pink sweats personally, like I like the pink brand sweats.
I agree.
And as a younger girl, I would tell like my parents, be like, I really want a pair of pink sweats. So I know for like potentially the male parents, like my dad, it's less awkward for some of the guys or someone who identifies as a male to walk into that store and go just into the loungewear area where there's not anything that's like super lingerie and maybe makes them feel out of their comfort zone, and they can just buy sweatpants or like a sweatshirt for like their girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever.
That's a good,
so that they feel better about it. Because I remember my dad always saying that, being like, I hate going in there because like it's always so weird, because it used to be. Now, I remember this changed when I was growing up. It used to be you had to walk into the normal Victoria's Secret store and then go into the pink section. Right. Now, and then they shifted it as I was growing up to there's an actual pink store, so you could just walk into that part. And now they're fully separate. Like, there's no in-between wall anymore. Like, they're 2 different stores.
Vancouver, not yet, but that's the new
one in
business
Washington
model.
Square
Yeah, they're starting
does
to.
That. So,
well, it was like American Eagle and Aerie. They did the same thing.
Yeah, now they're 2 different.
Yeah.
Which I think is just, I think probably nicer for parents too. I think even moms or anyone, because they probably just want to go, they don't want to deal with it, you know. They just want to go in and like get their daughter or whoever like a sweatshirt,
right? And it's all like, you have to play to consumerism, because like Devin's dad wanting to just go in and just walk up to sweatpants is probably, and I want to speak for him, but because he doesn't want to make other women feel uncomfortable also.
That's so him.
Yeah. And
whenever
so it's like,
we'd go shopping together, he'd always like stand off to the side because he didn't want to be like weird.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to give people their space. Yeah. I know a lot of dads that are like that. They're like, I just want to go in and like, if I'm buying Christmas presents, like specifically for me, like for my daughter, I just want to go in and get it. Maybe I'll ask someone to help me, but that's kind of it. I don't want to make other women feel uncomfortable in a store that's mainly geared towards women or people who identify as a woman. It's not necessarily meant for like, you know, a masculine man.
Yeah.
So
more kudos to the guys that walk in and get their significant other something sexy and just own it. But
yeah, good for you.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be an interesting like conversation of like, could you have like a male Victoria's Secret where, or like, I guess not a male, but anybody that would maybe be uncomfortable in the Victoria's Secret setting where they can go Never mind. That's online.
Like a lounge, yeah.
Yeah, like a lounge.
A lounge where they can just order it on a computer. Yeah. They don't have to actually go in.
Anytime I've ever gone in, I swear, every time, like, I have, like, I would always go to the same spots. I loved their workout gear, which they stopped making, which pisses me off. It was really good quality. And then, like, just very specific spots. And there would always be teenage boys with their girlfriend in there. And they're like looking at you because they're like, I think curious, like, what are you gonna buy? But then they're also like super ashamed to be in there.
Oh yeah, they are.
Oh my god, it's like you can cut the tension with a knife.
Families.
Yeah.
A few times I haven't gone to a Victoria's Secret in a little because I'm trying not to support them anymore because they're not super great for the environment.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
I want to support better brands. I'm trying to be a more mindful consumer. But the last time I went in there, which was probably last year, I remember walking in and I literally was just getting like kind of just some normal like underwear stuff. And I think maybe I was looking at sweatpants too. But I had to walk to the checkout area just in the Victoria's Secret store, and there was like a whole family in there. It was like a mom and a husband, and they had several kids, and then they had one baby in the stroller, and I was like, this is just like uncomfortable to me that like your whole family is in Victoria's Secret, because they were in the Victoria's Secret side, they weren't in the pink side. Yeah. So I was like, there's just like bras everywhere, and to me it's like, I personally don't care, and I think I would probably be fine with my kids seeing it, but they were also just like touching everything too. So I'm like, oh my god.
Well, I think
that was like, stop.
I have to like defend the mom. Having so many friends that are moms, like, if you need to buy underwear and this is your only opportunity, you don't care if your kid is running around grabbing boobs.
You don't care.
Well, like mannequin boobs.
Yeah, not people boobs.
But as a customer, it's like,
I'm just a little like, dude.
And like sometimes I don't know, little kids out of control in situations. I don't want to get it. This is a hot topic issue for a lot of people, but like just so back to photographers. I think that mindset of not wanting to make models uncomfortable starts to fade away the bigger they get, maybe.
I would potentially agree with that. Or I think we've talked about this a little. As a model too, sometimes you're kind of told, if you're in a bigger market, that you kind of have to be prepared to do nudity to make it, because someone else will take your place. And to a sense, that's true. If you are maybe trying to go out for a shoot that potentially has nudity in it and you say no, they could pass on you. Yeah. And that's just part of the industry. So you do have to be prepared for that to happen.
That's like me. Like, I would say no, and I would be prepared to be kicked out. Yeah, it's fine.
But to me, I think it's, as someone who has heard it a little, I think it's almost pitched to you like it's literally the end of your world if you say no to that. Because what if that's like a huge ad campaign and you just missed out on it, and you didn't do it just because you were like a prude and didn't want to be nude, or didn't want to not necessarily show everything, but like have the illusion of nudity.
Right, implied.
So it's pitched to you like it's a huge deal, I feel like, in some scenarios, which it's not, and that's the sad part. So I think that's why potentially it gives these people a place to thrive, because you want to go along with it in a way, maybe because they're a great photographer, you want to keep working with them, you want to keep your dynamic with them, or whatever brand you're working with, you want to keep your dynamic with them. So you get less comfortable with saying no when it's a sense of like, potentially my career's on the line.
But I brought it up before in other episodes. Coca Rocha was told that multiple times, and she's killing it. Yeah.
I just think to a new model.
Yeah. For sure.
It sometimes is pitched to you like you have to.
Yeah. I say that all the time. Like, I don't personally think anybody can make or break your career except for you. I do genuinely believe that. Yeah, it's going to be a lot harder if you have a lot more boundaries and whatnot, but just have them if you need them. Like, whatever. You just have to know that boundaries are also hurdles. And it's not just like for designers, if they really want to work with you, but your boundaries, like, they can't design around your boundaries, that's a hurdle on both ends, and you just have to be ready for it, I think. Yeah. Anyways, should we take a break and then jump into the Victoria's Secret, like more involved into what they're,
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Okay. Be right back.
Hey guys, so we're using Anchor to record our podcast.
It's been really easy. It's probably the easiest way out there to record your podcast.
It's super easy. Even a couple of like newbies like us can do it. It gives you tools to like record and edit your podcast right in the app or on their website.
It's free, which is a huge plus. They provide everything for you at no cost.
Yeah, they also help distribute your podcast, like they're doing for us right now. We're slowly getting on all of the different networks and such, and they give you a way to help track your ads, like this one.
Yeah, like this one, exactly.
Yes.
And also, there's an opportunity to make money and have your podcast supported by Anchor, as well as other sponsors.
Yes. So go ahead and download the Anchor app on App Store or Google Play, or go to anchor.fm online to start your new podcast adventure.
Thank you, Anchor.
Bye.
And we're back.
Hello.
With more model talk.
Cool.
We've been talking about what's going on right now in the industry with predatory photographers, some pop culture stuff, and just kind of talking about that. And we left off with Victoria's Secret and Model Alliance and what's going down over there.
So, I mean, I think it'd be great if they actually ended up signing that act that, or not act, but they sent them a letter to work on policy, which would be great. The problem is, I hope it doesn't get shoved under the rug, because I kind of feel like it might, just because...
Well, so they're actually, it's in Congress right now to be a legal bill.
Okay, tell me about it. I don't know.
So to start kind of from the beginning a little bit, the women behind Model Alliance that are pushing this Respect... I don't think it's the Respect Act, it's the Respect Program. So here's a quote from them that kind of started it. Every company in our industry says it abhors sexual harassment and wants to protect those at risk of abuse. This is on their official website as well. And then we believe that if a company is serious about protecting us, being models, it will be willing to go beyond mere premises to do better and embrace enforceable standards with real teeth. Together we will enable a working environment in which creative collaboration and self-expression flourishes, and everyone can work without fear, harassment, abuse, discrimination, or violence. So that's the idea behind this Respect program. It's to keep models safe and to keep them from being harassed or abused on set or be taken advantage of work-wise. And so it basically is calling for a new code of conduct with consequences if photographers are repeated violators of this code of conduct. And so they're petitioning for things like required training for further educating industry professionals on how to be respectful, what transparency should be, how models should be training, and just taking more of a specialized approach. And then so they have a bill out right now that they're trying to get put into law, and it's called the Model Harassment Protection Act.
They've already gotten a couple of bills passed, I know, based on just model safety standards. So they have a couple under their belt too. This isn't their first one. The founder, her name is Sarah. I can't remember her last name, but she worked as a model for 10 years, and now she's doing this. So she has firsthand experience too. I mean, I just think they're great. I think it would be nice if there was a national standard, because again, it's just something.
Yeah,
as we've said, actors have protection already. They can report it through their unions and SAG, and I think what's another, TV. There's protection there. We don't, and so it'd be nice to have something.
Labor laws,
some system of reporting too, which isn't just going through an agency. Because I do know that. I mean, I've heard horror stories, not from people here, but from Model Alliance, or these reports that are coming out of people that have reported to an agency and they've just tried to shove it under the rug or kind of pay it off, and they didn't want to actually do anything about potential harassment or anything. And it's well, that's terrible. And you go to someone that you trust and they're not helping, so you need to have a better system in place of reporting these issues. It's it's a self-reporting a victimization thing, but it's still it's good to have.
Yeah. And at the time of recording this, at least, Victoria's Secret isn't signing it.
They haven't done anything yet. It kind of just broke recently. It's been a couple of weeks, or no, it's still kind of being talked about.
Yeah, because I think with the specific Victoria's Secret models now coming out and signing it and advocating for Victoria's Secret to sign it, I get the impression that Victoria's Secret has been sitting on it for a while, and models are now finally like, come on. And so like Doutzen and Kraus is coming out in support of it. And
also, Carly Kloss kind of spoke out.
She left Victoria's Secret.
Yeah, so she kind of spoke out against the brand, being like, she just didn't like the image they were putting out of her.
Yeah, it was more image-based.
Which is huge, because now she's, like, more of a TV star than just a model. And also, I think with VS, I think they're going to sit on it until they really get some pushback, unfortunately. And it's hopefully something that happens.
Mm-hmm. But why?
I don't
know. Why?
Oh, also, it came back to me.
Oh, good.
There was, we watched this GMA news report, and they talked about how their CEO was connected with Jeffrey Epstein a little bit, about how he would maybe try to, quote unquote, like, be a talent scout for Victoria's Secret, which is so messed up and fucked up. And I think, I remember after watching this, there was an article that came out saying the CEO, like, fully wrote that off and said, no freaking way. He wrote a whole thing being like, we distance ourselves from him. Obviously, he was his financial manager, I think, so he talked about his personal victimization with him, but he said, like, absolutely not, fully distancing ourselves from that terrible person, like, condemned him for a bunch of things. So at least there's that. Also, there's the news as of today, August 14th. Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide a couple days ago. Yep. So now that will never, unfortunately, go to trial.
Those victims.
But at least, good riddance.
I know. That's an interesting thing. Like, people have a lot of strong opinions on that as to... There's a lot of perspectives to consider. Like, for the victims, what would be the better outcome and blah, blah, blah. But, ugh.
I understand, and, like... But, at least he's gone, in my opinion. At least he's gone. He's no longer able to do harm to anybody. Did he really answer for them? No, but at least to me, it's a form of justice because publicly everybody knows now. Like, everybody knows what he did and what happened and what he was accused of. And so now it's like, at least his reputation was basically thrown to shit. Like, no one could go out and look at him now and be like, well, he was a great person. Yeah. So, like...
That's true. Hopefully...
There's something with that. There's some justice in that. I know it's maybe not enough for some people, but there's something that that he at least was tarnished.
Yeah. Hopefully neither of us are ever in the situation where it's that serious and then we have to find out what we would prefer to happen. Damn.
Yeah, I don't
know. But to not give him really any more light of day. I mean... It's just an interesting time period right now for women in general, or people identifying as women, and even anybody who is not identifying male or female, and broadening the scope of gender identity. It's an interesting, progressive, hopefully, time.
Also, Victoria's Secret just announced, was it like a couple days ago, that they canceled their show. Like, they're not going to do their iconic show anymore. Which, to me... Sure, like, honestly, I felt like that was a dying thing anyway, because it seemed like from the past, like, 2 years, they almost were running out of ideas.
Well, you couldn't live stream it. Like, they didn't keep up with what people actually want.
No, they
had
to
wait.
Yeah, you had to wait. Also, I just don't... I mean, to me, that was never actually a real runway. It was more of a performance, because you never actually had to really do a runway walk. You were waving to people, you were smiling. So it was more of
like a sexy pageant.
A live performance thing, really. And I mean, it was cool to watch for sure. I think the first several were really cool because they actually, like, made them like that. And then it started just evolving into some other like, big PR thing. But I am not upset about it. Like, kind of good riddance. Yeah. And then they just, what was it? They just got their first trans model. Yeah. They just signed their first trans model, which to me is great. Yeah. And Project Runway just has, on last season, the one Sonia was in, they had their first trans model, too.
Sonia Kasparian's a local Portland designer. But, like, on America's Next Top Model, and I realize I reference it all the time, Tyra had transgender models on there from, like, early on.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And it's like, come on, people, like, catch up.
Well, to me, Project Runway... was more of an achiever for them to do it, and also more of an achiever for them to start opening up to full size ranges. And the fact that Heidi said that, to me, is a bigger deal than Victoria's Secret doing it. Yeah. Because Project Runway to me is way more impactful to our field than Victoria's Secret doing
That's
something.
True. Yeah.
Because Victoria's Secret hiring a trans model, it's like, okay, you finally got on the trend.
Right. And it's why now? Like, so when Rihanna...
me, it feels slightly like a PR stunt.
I agree. Yeah. So we've been talking a little bit about Rihanna and like her broadening the spectrum for different races and skin colors. So when her beauty campaign came out, she got some backlash for having no, and I believe it was specifically no transgender models. And she came back and she said, I am not going to use a transgender model for the sake of exploiting them. Yeah. Had they come to the auditions and they fit what we needed, just skin tone wise or whatever for that particular product, she said, fuck yeah, we'd hire them if they were the right person for the job. But we're not going to actively seek out a particular group of people for sale purposes. Yeah. And I thought that was a really interesting look on it, because it is. It's like, there is this balance between exploitation and then also just wanting to be inclusive and celebrating that now diversity is becoming more prevalent.
I feel like, still talking about makeup, I feel like a similar thing like that happened when James Charles first did CoverGirl, which I remember that. That was an iconic moment, because he was like the first boy in like a big beauty makeup campaign. And then a bunch of people started using like Manny MUA. Granted, those were brand deals, so good for them. But then I feel like soon after those two guys really like pushed it forward, and they were kind of the icons of like showing men and beauty to like the broad public, then I feel like a lot of people started feeling like, oh shoot, we have to have boys in our makeup campaigns. They started being like, let's get boys, and let's get very feminine boys, and like let's fit this mold. Yeah. It's like no, if they're there, it's great, but you don't have to have it in each one now. But it's great.
Be open to the idea, and when it flows naturally for your campaigning.
Yeah, but to me, it felt like they were almost slightly seeking them out, more being like, okay, well, we have to have like a woman of color who's like curvy, and we have to have like a really skinny white woman, and then we have to have like a really feminine man. Like those were the molds we're filling.
I think that's what it comes down to. So I think there's a difference between a company and wanting to be more diverse, and seeking out like different races that they've not had in their campaigns before, or seeking out transgender models. I think that is something they should do to an extent. But it's really annoying to me when you can tell a business or an ad campaign are checking off boxes. Yeah. Okay, we have this race. Perfect. We have this size. Perfect. I want to see it evolve throughout their whole campaign, that it's just evolving, and that it's not because they have these check boxes.
I'll call out a brand that did that, and I think Jeffree Star did this too. There's a brand called Huda Beauty. She's an influencer. She has like a Facebook watch series. But something came out, and I saw this on YouTube on one of those like spill the tea channels, but something came out where she basically spoke out against like gay people. She said something something along the lines of being homophobic. I don't really know what it is. But now, as of like maybe a couple months ago, I saw her now doing campaigns with famous drag queens. And I was like, is this you just trying to fix your image, or do you genuinely want to use these people? Like, I don't know.
But that's an interesting thing to think about, because even with politics and businesses right now, I am so always interested in the bounce back, because people are going to make mistakes. They're going to say stupid things. How do you fix it? And do you go about it genuinely? I'd be curious, like, is this a genuine effort for her to, be like, wow, I was wrong? And
am I trying to reach out to that community more? I'd be like, great, cool. But to me, it slightly came off as like, I don't know where you're going here. And it feels like you're almost trying to fix your image.
I want to do a PR person on the show. Like, I want to do a podcast with a PR person. Cause
do we know anybody?
I'm sure we can find one. If you're a PR person, reach out to us. I can think of a couple people to talk to. But because it's just this world of psychology and a way of looking at things that I feel like until you've been in it for a while, you don't get it. But once it's explained to you, like, why they're doing a certain thing, you're like, oh.
To me, it'd be like being inside the show Scandal. Because that was like a whole PR show, essentially. But basically, it was very interesting to see.
Yeah, PR is really interesting. Yeah. But let's cap this episode and throw our obsessions out there real quick, because I think this has been a long one.
I'll start.
Okay.
My obsession, I just went to another play. If you're in Oregon, I think the Keller actually puts on really good plays. They just had like Willy Wonka, which I went to, which is really good. But I'm really into opera, and the Portland Opera is actually so good. So if you ever are a person that wants to do that, like I know Madame Butterfly is coming in October, and that's an iconic one. So like you should look at that.
Did you know really cool. My little brother's an opera singer in Chicago?
That's so cool.
Yeah. Shout out to Matthew Case. Someone hire him.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah, he's an opera singer. I didn't know you were so into opera. I love opera and theater and all of that jazz.
Okay. Yep.
Did you just go to one, or you just it's now like on your radar, or?
My dad loved opera, so we've gone to Pan's Magic Flute, and then we've gone to Rigoletto, which is a classic. So those are the two I've seen.
Nice. I really want to see Aida. And
I wanted to see Sweeney Todd when it came here, but then like we just didn't have enough time.
I love Sweeney Todd. Anyways, okay, so our nerd side is showing. Okay, so my obsessions for this week. So a constant obsession through my life is Target. I absolutely love Target. And lately, because it's like back to school and stuff, end of summer, they'll have these deals where it's like buy 3 like beauty products and get a $5 gift card.
That's a nice thing.
I run through that store, and any one of those deals that like applies to me and I could buy 3 or however much the dollar amount is, you better believe I have like
you're doing
$45 right now in free $5 Target gift cards.
That's so nice.
So get out there, guys. And yeah, so cool. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
You can find us on Instagram at Model Talk Podcast PDX. Wherever you're listening to us through, if you can subscribe, do that. If you can rate us, do that. If you can review us, even better.
If you're listening on Anchor and you want to be a monthly donator, that would be awesome. Yeah. You can totally do that by clicking through, there's a way to do that in the link through the Anchor app.
Yeah, and we'll put all the links in our in the show description of Model Alliance and anything else we talked about that could be interesting for you guys to look further into. And yeah, so make sure to reach out to us with any ideas for episodes, anything you want us to talk about, and we would be happy to do that. And new episodes are on Thursdays, guys. Okay, bye.
Bye.